Perfect.
I see that we're starting to get people with us.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Hello.
Good morning.
You can write in the chat, guys, if you can hear us and see us. Tell us, how are you? What are the thoughts before this last day of presentations? Hello, Alex. Hope you have a nice day too. Hi, Raul. Thank you for letting us know that everything is okay. We'll just wait a little bit longer to get everyone connected. It's the first presentation of the day, so it might take a little bit longer. Bogdan, hello. How are you? Another super interesting day. Like the first two. Thank you, Bogdan. Hello, Igor. Hi. Hi, Christian. Thank you for being with us as well. Okay, so just to clarify on the technical side, at the end of this session for the Q&A, you can post your questions in the Q&A session. And after Xavi finishes the presentation, we can open your microphones and your cameras, and you can ask your questions directly to Xavi. But just make sure that you post them in the Q&A section so that we know to turn on your camera and make you a panelist on the discussion. Okay, so I think we can start, and I'm going to start by introducing Xavi, who is really one of the greatest people I know in the sport industry that I had the pleasure to meet so far. He believes in a world where brands are engaged in a meaningful way, and he uses his insights from the world of women's football, as he will do today, to teach us about what it takes to create a meaningful brand. Xavi is a sports marketing specialist, and he has a strong background in women's football. And actually, I think he was one of the first people who fought for the growth of the impact of the women's football. He's been working with football players from the females game, like the Costa Rican Rocky Rodriguez, to help her consolidate her brand. And he's really passionate about education. As a result, he teaches for a sports marketing master, and he was about to be appointed as the Euro 2020 marketing manager in Bilbao at the San Mamés Stadium. But as you all know, the tournament was postponed for next year, so probably he's going to start his role 1 year later. Hope you'll all enjoy the presentation, and please don't hesitate to ask questions because you'll get some great answers. Xavi, you have the scene now.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Andre. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Andre, Diana, the Youth Council, and all the team of organization for inviting me. And thank you everyone for attending. Alex, Raul, Igor, Goga, Christian, Anatoly, everyone, Ignat, everyone here. Thank you for attending. Let's start by sharing the presentation. I hope it can be very useful for you. And we will start right now. To share. Okay. All right. So let's get started, guys. Yes, as Andre mentioned, I'm very, let's close this. Okay, perfect. I'm very involved with women's football, and I guess you can be wondering why. The point is that I wanted to play an active role in the global equality movement. I believe that women's football can tell powerful stories to connect with fans, brands, and media. And I thought that that I could learn and help to make women's football advance with marketing and with business. So this is my my goal to try to inspire, to create meaningful brands in women's football so they can connect with fans, brands, and media. I have been involved in projects as the UEFA Women's Euro, work with athletes as the Portland Thorns player Rocky Rodriguez, also the FC Barcelona former player Lina Rodic, involved also in the last FIFA Women's World Cup covering the tournament for the top leading media outlet Mundo Deportivo in Spain from a business perspective. And as Andre said, I was appointed LOS Venue Marketing Service Manager for the UEFA Men's Euro that will happen next year, and hopefully I will be there trying to deliver a great tournament. So let's get started with the goal. The goal to me, I have structured this presentation to help you to make social impact happen. Andre was telling me about the interesting projects that you are planning to do from a fan engagement perspective, digital transformation, sponsorship. So I will try to deliver insights and personal lessons that can help you to make that happen, and also from women's football, which I think that can teach us a lot of things. And especially, I will focus on a case study with Raquel Rodriguez, the player I'm working with right now, that I think that we have done a very useful step-by-step process that I can share to you, and that can be helpful to create a meaningful brand with your projects, so you can connect to the stakeholders that you can later talk to, with like federations or sponsors or fans. And it's about stories. So let's get started with the content. The first question that I would like to ask and also invite you to think about is, what is a brand? To me, a brand is not an Instagram account. It's not a logo. Those are the reflections and also consequences of building a brand. To me, a brand is a promise. Is a promise of solving a challenge, of solving a project, a problem, and going there to the market and say, here is this. I made it for you to provide you value. And to me, that is a brand. The promise of solving a challenge or a problem to someone. And what is a meaningful brand? We have many brands, and as you can think, we have in our day-to-day lives many brands, as for instance Microsoft, Apple, Netflix, Google. We have many of them that surround us with also ads, with content, with products, services. But a meaningful brand is that one that we would miss if it were gone. For instance, what would we do now without Netflix these days with the lockdown? We would miss Netflix. So that's a meaningful brand. A meaningful brand is that one that plays a significant role in our fans or clients' lives. So we have to build a value that can be a long-term value, and also can play and have a specific and important role in people's lives, because otherwise we would be forgotten. So my insights and lessons that I will try to share with you today are aimed to build a meaningful brand that can help you to deliver a successful project, but not, and this we can see it a lot in football as well. Many sponsorships can be signed with the approach of generating revenue, but if we are not taking care of our brand, we would be that would be in the detriment of our brand, because in the end we remember and we care about those brands that we think that are cool, that are friendly. So let's see how we can do it. The structure of the presentation today will be the following: leading a movement. I think that what you will do with your project is leading a challenge, a movement, and a group of people that goes in the pursuit of an impact. So that will be the first part. Second one, creating your brand. Third one, personal lessons and action. So let's start with leading a movement. When you pick a challenge, when you pick a project that you want to deliver in order to make an impact, you're becoming a leader. So let's see what it takes to develop your leadership skills. And according to Simon Sinek, one of the top marketing speakers and business speakers in this area, he says leadership requires two things: a vision of the world that does not yet exist, and the ability to communicate it. That's very, very important, guys, because many times we have brilliant ideas, but I would say that 10% is the idea and 90% of is the execution. If we are not able to communicate that within a club, within a federation, with our sponsor, then the idea becomes useless because it cannot make that impact happen. So it's as important the way you structure and the way you design the strategy of your project as the way and the ability you have to make that a reality, how you can empathize with your stakeholders' views and worldview to sell that project. So that's very important. And to start leading a movement and also this change that we want to make happen with a sports marketing project in your case, we have to focus on solving problems. In the end, if you see, I work as a sports marketing consultant, but if we work for a club, for instance, what we do is solving problems. And today problems in the sports industry are how we engage in the digital environment, especially with the lockdown, how we generate revenue for clubs and stakeholders, and also how we can deliver great and remarkable events for our fans. These are problems that sports stakeholders have, and when if we specialize on the idea that we can solve the problems in a different and specific way, then we will win. Because if we go tomorrow to UEFA and we have a grassroots project, it has to solve a problem to them. It can be time, it can be money, it can be efforts, it can be facilities, but I would suggest and invite you to focus on a challenge. The second point is we have shifted from making stuff to making stuff up, from making stuff to making stuff up. And that means from creating products to telling stories. If you think about it, guys, we no longer buy what we need, but we buy what we want. We don't buy the products that we need to survive, but we buy those stories and those messages that we engage with, that we feel inspired by, and we feel identified with the culture and with the philosophy that is behind that message. So we have to focus on the story part, and we will talk about storytelling in this presentation. And the third point is related to this, our worldview through stories. We understand our world through stories. What we buy, for instance, if we buy an FC Barcelona jersey, we are not buying the product, we are not buying the jersey. We are buying the feeling of belonging to something greater than ourselves, that is a community, that it's a club or a family. So we have to identify from which stories do our stakeholders and fans understand the world. And if we can understand that, we can tell the right stories to engage with them. And finally, who's it for and what's it for? You have to have very clear when you approach stakeholders to say, this project is aimed to increase your revenue, to increase participation, or improve your digital fan engagement, for instance, and also knowing who you are addressing to, because if you focus on what are their needs, what are their challenges, their fears, then you can make a more personalized and more potentially successful proposal if you focus on what they need. It's not about you guys, it's not about your project, it's about how they are going to win with your project. So here we have an example. This is the New York Marathon. And if we think about what we tell ourselves, the stories we tell ourselves, when we participate, or most of the people that participate in the New York Marathon, they do it because of the story they tell themselves about participating in the marathon. How would it be, for instance, if the organization prohibited and they didn't allow people to take pictures and or not taking any memory from the event? Do you think that many people would still participate? I don't know, or I don't think so, because many of them participate because of the story they tell about sharing with friends, with family, that they were in New York to participate in the traditional marathon. So that's a story that we sell. And if we are the organizer of the New York Marathon, it would be better to engage with the participants by saying, come to the most legendary marathon in the world, the one you have to participate once in your life. That is more powerful than saying, come to the New York Marathon because we have, the kilometers are the same for everyone, for every marathon, but that would be more powerful than saying, for instance, we'll give you a t-shirt, we'll give you water, and there will be also refreshments and food. So it's the inspiring part is the story you tell. And this is the one that I think that participants in the New York Marathon, they tell about themselves. Here we have another examples about FIFA Women's World Cup. This was the final in Lyon. Actually, it was somewhere here, I think, but going back to the point, here the story that many people told themselves about being there is about they were becoming part of the future of women's football, of shaping the sport, and about supporting a sport that needs more support. So in that sense, again, it would be more useful to many people to hear that if they come to the FIFA Women's World Cup, they will be part of the future of football, because they will be supporting women, for instance, rather than saying, come to the second level because you will have refreshments as well and food, and you will be able to get there by, we'll provide you a train ticket, for instance. So let's focus on the story and the reason why part, guys, to engage with fans and sponsors or stakeholders. I would like to share you a case study from Glasgow City FC. Glasgow City is a Scottish women's team that they are a remarkable case study, because with a budget 10 times smaller than the top clubs as Celtic, Glasgow Celtic, or Glasgow Rangers, they have won the national championship in the last 13 years. So 13 championships in a row, with a budget that is 10 times smaller than the top ones. We can see sometimes cases as Leicester City. Some years ago, they won the Premier League. Okay, that happens once in every 20 years, maybe. But these women, they have won the championship 13 years in a row. And they have done it by creating a culture of feeling the belong and feeling proud of becoming part of something greater than themselves. And the culture is about supporting women and supporting girls so they can become wherever they want in life. So this is why they call the case study the City of Dreams. And we will see now a short speech from her general manager where she speaks about how culture and how the stories they tell about the sponsors, fans, they have helped to build this successful case story. And she says, we have had the obligation to be better marketeers than marketing professionals, to be better scouts than professional scouts. So let's see what she says about this case study.
We've also tried to create our own media impact at Glasgow City. And we've done that through the advent of social media, our website, our Facebook, our Twitter, our YouTube account, and that has helped push our club forward. We've gone from what literally used to be a few people at our games to now quite a few hundred. For our last 16 game there in the Champions League, just last November against Arsenal, we sold out 2 days in advance of the game. And that wasn't through a big media push from the outside forces. That was simply through our Twitter, Facebook, and our website. We also sell replica shirts all around the world, as I like to think we spread our city of dreams that we can to every young girl out there. But I'm under no illusions that every child that comes to Glasgow City, they're not all going to be world-class footballers, definitely not. But if we can just help them, make them believe that they can fulfil whatever ambitions they have and whatever they want to be in life, then I think we've done a very good job.
If you say, guys, she focuses on the dream of letting girls and women play because of their dreams. So that is something that inspires instead of talking about the facilities or talking about the history of the club. So we have two choices when we want to market a brand or a product. We can be the cheapest one, like Walmart, for instance, or what we find on Amazon or AliExpress, for instance. But the point here is that there will be always someone cheaper than you. So price is an option that leads to become cheaper and cheaper until you make no revenue and no profit. So the other choice and the other option is to be remarkable, to be different, to be someone that is or launching a product that is worth talking about. That is an idea that is different, that it's engaging, and that's what this presentation is about becoming and launching a remarkable project. Here we have different examples. If we need, for instance, to buy a t-shirt to do sports, we could go to shop and buy a normal one, like the design you see on the left, or we could pick an All Blacks jersey, and that would be based on the story that we tell ourselves. If we are the kind of people that buy the t-shirt on the left or the t-shirt on the right. So this is why it's very important to be very clear about if we want to be the cheapest one or the remarkable choice. And if we want to be remarkable, which is the story that we tell. For instance, All Black tell about the story of the Maori tribe from New Zealand, and how that affects to all the traditions, to the haka, to all the routines that the team has. And we see here in the design, and also the design of the t-shirt comes from the culture of the Maori tribe in New Zealand. So it's very important to pick if we want to be the cheapest one or remarkable, and then make it happen through our communication and through our branding as well. And again, who's it for and what's it for? It will determine also our communication and branding, focusing on what are their needs, their fears, and what kind of benefit they are seeking. And for that, we will see later on the buyer persona model is about focusing, about finding out all the information we can about our target. And that means how money they make per year, if they have a family, where do they live, what are their fears, challenges, dreams, and then being able to tell that in one sentence, our benefit in one sentence, be very, very clear and very specific. I wanted to share you another case study. This is about Portland Thorns. It's the most remarkable club in women's football in the world. While I would say the rest of the world of the clubs in women's football, they don't average higher fan attendance per game, more than 1,000 fans. And Portland Thorns, they average more than 20,000 per game. I mean, that's a huge difference between the different clubs. And it's not they are the best team in the world. They aren't. Actually, the best team can be Olympique Lyon or Wolfsburg, for instance. And as I said, here we have the most remarkable club in women's football because of the culture, the story they tell about the city. The club is very inspired by what the city of Portland identifies with, which is freedom of expression, support with the LGBTI groups. Also, the Portland is known as the city of happiness as well, and they deliver roses in every game because they are also called the city, the Rose City. Actually, they have a huge park with 10,000 roses spread all over the park, and the culture is based on the city, and this is why the fans feel so engaged with the club that they don't care if they're going to attend a men's or a women's game, that they want to be there supporting the club. So let's see what the players and the fans say about this case story.
It is an absolute privilege to play in front of our family, friends, and fans in this atmosphere. But we have to earn that right. It's not guaranteed. Collectively, let's bring our best. Thorns on 3. 1, 2, 3.
You have like hopes and you imagine what it potentially could be like, and obviously having attended the University of Portland, I knew that people in the city are passionate about their soccer team.
Folks filing in for the 2 p.m. start.
This is amazing, guys.
Kickoff
we
in
don't see
Portland.
that
Historic
this even
kickoff.
in a World
The
Cup.
professional debut of the Portland Thorns here in the National Women's Soccer League. From day one, the community said, we've been waiting for you guys all our lives. That bond and connection between the players and the fans has been the thing that has set this franchise apart from any other team, any other franchise in the league.
I knew immediately what the culture was like, what the fans meant to the team, what the whole city meant to the team, and then it was playing for something so much more than just like a game. I feel like I'm part of something greater than just a soccer game.
When teams come to play Portland, they're not just playing the Thorns, they're playing the whole city.
everyone at the game, everyone cheering the whole time, and just the atmosphere was incredible. And I think once I finally got to step on the field for Portland, it was so surreal.
Just walking out that first time for warm-ups, and there already being thousands of people in the stands.
I never felt this energy so deeply before. It's like the fans really carry you.
The Thorns have become my family, and stepping out onto the fields, any game, will always be the best memories of my life.
The crowd in a frenzy behind the goal. There it is. The Portland Thorns win the NWSL championship.
Those two styles represent history and fans that have given this team over many, many years.
The support we had right from the get-go, and obviously fans with the organization, was just top class and minute one.
This defines us. To be, of course, good soccer players, and to be a Thorn also means that you're a good person, that you are bringing the city and Thorns even closer together.
To keep pushing the boundaries, to every year take another step forward. The game is growing, but for me it's just been an honor to be part of an organization that is moving the way.
There's got to be something special about you to represent this club and represent this community. See every game there with this fan base coming in.
Playing here is like nothing else, and everyone that doesn't here should be extremely jealous, and they always are.
So as you see, guys, this is not about football. This is not about a club. This is about culture. This is about is about what fans tell themselves about being there. It's like people like us do things like this, and this is why it's very important to care about the culture and about the reason why we want to set up our project, because this is what connects. This is how you feel. This is a stadium with more than 20,000 people on average for a women's football game. So if we decide to launch a project worth talking about, let's start with why, as we said. And to do that, I wanted to present you to the concept of the golden circle by Simon Sinek, where he says that the companies that are successful, they go from the inside to the outside, starting with why, then with how, and finally with what. We see many of the ads that are shown on maybe on Instagram ads, on TV, they focus on what. We see an ad of a car, and they talk about the characteristics, all the features, but they don't talk about their why. And here the example that is always the most popular example of why companies, Nike or Apple, they talk about changing the world, about challenging the status quo, and that's what connects with people, because people don't buy what you do, but they buy why you do it. So, and this is very important. When you try to sell your projects and to communicate them, you have to talk about your why, your vision. This is why people engage with you and your products. And also with COVID-19, how can you make an impact right now? We as fans and customers look for human and cool brands that are inspiring and also entertaining us. And I wanted to bring an example of how Barcelona, they decided a couple of days ago to sell the Camp Nou naming rights for the first time in the club history. They will donate and to give that rights to the foundation so they can raise funds in order to fight COVID-19 and to dedicate those funds to the health sector. So that's a remarkable action as well. And this is what we need now. We need, as I said, cool brands, but humans brand that support fans, that not try to sell, but they support and also entertain. So in a nutshell, remarkable brands are crystal clear about why, how, and what. They focus on solving problems and challenges. They also talk beautifully because we want to engage and to be proud of projects that we see as beautiful and that they are visual and also they look professional. And finally, say no to what doesn't fit. Remarkable brands don't engage with projects or customers or fans that they are not, that they have not designed the experience of the product for them. So they go to the ones that are the hardcore fans, that the ones that feel identified with the culture of what they try and seek to promote. Let's see another example of Budweiser. Budweiser started to sponsor the NWSL, the first women's league in the United States last year, and they did it by sharing the purpose of supporting the game, not only every 4 World Cups. This is what they did. So this is a very self-critical campaign with them, because Budweiser has been one of the official sponsors of the US women's national team since the last 20 years. But they come to the conclusion that they were supporting the American women's football only with the national team when they won a World Cup every 4 years, but not every day among these 4 years. So this is the ad that they launched last year at the day of the final.
Soccer doesn't have fans. Soccer has supporters. Because when it comes to soccer, the word fan just doesn't cut it. Supporters show up no matter what. And when they show up together in full force, they have the power to change the game. Every 4 years, we act like supporters. But we can't call ourselves supporters. Because supporters don't stop watching when the lights dim. When the tournament ends, we stop watching. Our heroes return to their teams at home, but we're not there to greet them. We root for them when they're abroad, but ignore them in our own backyard. We tell a generation of women we only care about 23 players every 4 years. That we support the women's national team, but not the women's game. If we really are supporters, if we really care as much as we say we do, are as inspired as we claim to be, then today is not the end. Today is a new beginning. Because this time, we won't stop watching.
So as you see, it goes from sponsor to supporter, because they want to be self-critical and say, okay, we have not done the things the best way we could do it, but now we want to be there every day for women's football in the US. Let's step into the second section of the presentation, creating your brand. How can you build a meaningful brand, and which elements are required to do that? And I want to introduce you to Rocky Rodriguez. She plays for Portland Thorns, and one of her dreams and also her main purpose is to share insights and ideas to help the new generations to have more tools to pursue their dreams. And she says it takes passionate people to do things that aren't easy, especially in the women's game when many people and many things need to be maybe changed in terms of mindset and also opportunities. And as said, she plays for Portland Thorns. She's the all-time goal scorer for Costa Rica, the top goal scorer in the women's section, but also regarding the whole football, men and women, she's the third in the whole history of Costa Rica. She's among the top 10 New Balance athletes for brand exposure. And I think that here we did, it's not that good that I say, but I think we did a very good job, because she ranked them on top 10 New Balance athletes, including men, that they have a lot of more exposure on TV, on social media, and she ranked among top 10 together with athletes as Sadio Mane from Liverpool. So it was a great accomplishment. We have increased her engagement by 80% in the last year, and also we have done some cool campaigns with sponsors. We will see now how we have developed and created her brand, and a meaningful brand, in the last 2 years. Here are the main sponsors: New Balance, Noon, and Pimiento Rosa. Noon is a brand of vitamins and also supplements that helps her to be more, complement her nutrition with healthy elements that help them to perform better. And Pimiento Rosa is a health and nutrition and food company in Costa Rica. Well, but the first thing is why. Why should we work on, or why should we care about building a meaningful brand for an athlete? The point is that, as you see here, this is the average evolution from the sports influence of an athlete. The peak, it can be at the 28 years old, but then the curve, as you see, it goes down. And when a player doesn't work on his or her brand, when he stops playing, as you see here, his or her influence goes down. And the point here is to, as you see the brand influence curve, the blue one, if we start working and if we work on his or her brand, what happens is this, that regardless of his or her performance on the pitch as an athlete, he or she still has an influence of the pitch. We have many examples, as David Beckham is one of the top ones. And the main benefits here is to drive and to build engagement with fans, to drive revenue, and also leave a legacy. These are one of the top benefits of working on a brand, with branding an athlete. Here we have the example of Rocky. This was dated to last year. Now we will see what happens by the end of 2020 with Portland Thorns, but I guess the engagement will be somewhere here. And this is measured by, yes, the engagement, the sports influence, but also here we have the sports career, okay, the average one, and the sports influence. The sports influence is based on her performance on the pitch, but the point here is that we want to build a brand influence that goes like this, regardless of the sports career average score. And as you see, when she started playing at the first division in the United States, the influence went up, and we are working now with Portland Thorns to make it go bigger. And this is why it's very important to work on the brand, because when she retires, she will own an asset that is very valuable to keep adding value to fans or to brands once she's not playing anymore. Here we have what we call the brand story effect. As we mentioned, we understand the world with stories, about the stories we tell ourselves. And this is what happened in social media when we started sharing her story. As you see, this was content regarding her day-to-day, but when we shared her reason why, her story, this is what happened in terms of reach in social media. So it's very important to do that. This pic was about the national team when they played a very important tournament, and she did a great performance, but also she also posted, and we posted content regarding what she felt about the feelings about the story of her and the national team. I wanted to share with you regarding the story of her, of Rocky. We will see which is the specific one, but this is a campaign we did with New Balance. And when we tried to engage from the story that we had developed, and that was very successful in social media, it got a lot of engagement, and it was born from her story and from her deepest values.
I never thought I would have the opportunity to be someone that people would look up to give back to the girls in Costa Rica. It's something that I've been carrying in my heart a long time because of my story. My best friends were mainly boys because they were the ones that played soccer. Whenever a card came, he yelled, "Bad wrong," cards meant to stop. We used to put 2 rocks to put the goals. Soccer is just such a huge part of the culture that we would make the space. 3 main places we would play against each other would be my neighborhood, my school, and my dad's soccer lessons every Saturday.
Yo enseñaba técnicas, fundamentos del fútbol, y yo veía que ella era disciplinada, muy coordinada, y que a ella le gustaba.
He always says, like, I just saw the talent that you had. Like, I didn't care you were a girl or a boy. He pushed me a lot.
Okay, perfect. So let's see how we can do it and how you can do it with your projects. We have 3 parts to build your meaningful brand, starting with branding, communication, and impact when we try to connect with fans, with brands and media. So let's start with the branding. The branding is about building awareness, letting people know that we exist. Communication is about telling our why, about why we care about what we do. It's about building trust. And finally, impact is about revenue. We have to follow these steps. We cannot start selling sponsorship if people don't know us or don't trust us. So this is the natural process to go. About branding, we have to create and design the following elements: the brand story, the positioning statement, and values and personality of the brand. For instance, with Rocky, this is well, it's a very short summary of her story, but this is the following one. We start with her impact, the reason why she believes in what she does. My name is Raquel Rodriguez, and I believe in a world where we all have the same opportunities to pursue our dreams. And then in a story, we have to share a dramatic or a tipping point in the project's life or in the brand's life that also argues the call to action that we are going to present later on. So when I was 8 years old, I wrote my 3 deepest dreams: getting a scholarship for US, becoming a pro player and playing for Costa Rica, and the outcome. This is the call to action and the solution we want to provide to the challenge. I got a scholarship for Penn State. I became a pro at the age of 22 with Sky Blue and have played for Costa Rica since I was 13. Now I want to give back by helping others to train their dreams. So this is the structure of a storytelling told from the marketing perspective. So here the title is not defining the brand story, but the brand positioning. The brand positioning is how we want to be perceived by our fans, from also their heart and their mind. How do we want to position our brand in them? So we have to use a couple of elements. The first one is the frame of reference. What field is your brand at? And the second is differentiation. What makes you special? For instance, if we focus on this one, the greatest basketball player, we will think about Michael Jordan. And this is because he has been so successfully in establishing himself and with a brand positioning as the greatest basketball player. With Raquel Rodriguez, what we are working on is on building this brand positioning statement, the personal coach in women's football. We will see why in the next slides. And we have 3 positioning statements that can be the most powerful, which is becoming the first, the only, and the best. These are the most challenging ones, but are the ones that are most easily remembered by our fans and by our clients. The next elements, as we said, are the values and personality. We have to identify 3 main core values. We see many companies, they identify like 10, 15. We have to be very specific, and then picking one brand archetype. Which kind of family in terms of branding archetypes do we want to fit in? We have different ones: the explorer, the wise, the innocent, the creator, the ruler, the caregiver, the friendly, the hippie, the lover, the hero, the magician, and the rebel. These are many archetypes on which our brand can fit, and we don't have to be very, radical, always be on one, but having like a primary one and a secondary one that we can use to focus and to position our brand as we want to, as we defined here. So we have different athletes that we could try to position. We could say that Leo Messi, for instance, is the magician on the pitch. Ronaldo maybe is the ruler who wants to set maybe or impose his character. Zlatan Ibrahimovic, the rebel, and Neymar Jr. maybe the hippie that looks for also the pleasure of life from off the pitch. So this is very useful to set who we want to become at what we want to communicate in terms of value and personality. Here are some examples about Rocky. This is in Spanish, but I will translate it for you. We mix 3 elements: the balance from the physical and emotional side, football and work, and country, Costa Rica, and nature. This is what identifies the brand of Rocky, and this is the logo that was born from this philosophy. As you see, the colors makes us think about nature and about colors of nature in Costa Rica. Here we see the elements that are friendly, that are close, but also that they are bold and committed. And well, here is the palette of different colors regarding her logo. And here how we apply it to the content that we post. This is the seed of the day that we will see in the following slides. That is a key content that has helped us to boost engagement as we have done with her brand. Let's go into the second part. The first one was about branding. The second one is about communication, how we communicate our project in social media, on digital, on offline. First, we have to define KPIs and goals, but we have to be very clear about what KPIs and goals are. KPIs are relevant metrics to your project's performance. A metric is an indicator to measure data. And finally, a goal isn't a specific performance to be achieved. So this is very important because many times we address our stakeholders or our internal clients or our bosses, and if we don't know what clearly how we are going to achieve and how we are going to measure our success, then we can, I mean, what can't be measured can be achieved. So we have to know how to measure, how to set a goal, and here we have some examples. For instance, a KPI, that is a relevant metric to our project's performance. Instagram average likes per post from January to June. As you see, it's very concrete, where, when, with the time frame from January to June, and what kind of metric we are using, but it's related to our performance. Metric in this case would be likes per post. And the goal, averaging, for instance, 3,000 likes per post from January to June. So this is very important to apply when we communicate our projects, and especially your projects. Then it's important to set different content territories, but do it in a way that we can have many ideas and also be flexible. For instance, the content territories is the content that we post, the kind of information and details that we provide. And we, for instance, with Rocky, we identified like 10 or 15, but these are 3 of them. Match day, and this is the spirit of the content territory. Ready to rock, seed of the day, my ideas to grow, and Costa Rica, this is my home. And these are ideas, brainstorming about what we could post on those days when the content territory is selected to be posted about. So for instance, match day, the feelings, there's a big game, highlights, the preparation or the fan sports, Costa Rica, talking about family, friends, nature, food, lifestyle. So this is important because it helps us to strengthen our brand positioning. And here is what I told to you before, the seed of the day. The seed of the day, guys, is a content that we created to strengthen her brand positioning and also her philosophy about her brand, and about providing ideas about physical, spiritual, emotional, ecological, or professional development, how to provide tools to the new generations and people in Costa Rica to seek and to pursue their dreams. So let's see an example.
Welcome back, my dear Seed of the Day family, to another week of the Seed of the Day. We all know it's the beginning of a new year, and New Year's resolution is a very popular topic. It's important that we have some sort of direction for our lives after we reflect on an old year. So with this in mind, I have a proposal. I think it's important for us to focus on sowing so that we can reap the benefits of our efforts. So you have the person who works really hard, sows constantly, and these people are going to see the benefits of their efforts sooner or later, but for sure they will see some kind of benefit. You have the other person, the other people who just don't sow in their life, and what's for sure in their lives is that there's going to be a period in their life that they won't see any sort of benefits, any sort of reaping. The seed of the day is just to motivate you guys to keep being intentional and working on the areas that you want to see fruitful in your life. Life is not that nice sometimes. And for that reason, I want to leave you guys with this phrase or this quote. It says, "Those who sow with tears will reap with songs of joy." So just remember, sometimes it gets tedious, it gets hard. Sometimes we want to see the crop sooner rather than later. It can't come soon enough. However, remember that those efforts will bring its reaping at its given moment. So don't get tired, or even if you get tired, remember that you can find comfort in the fact that you reap whatever you sow. Okay, so show the seed of the day to whoever might need it, to whoever might need to listen to it. As always, please leave your comments. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of the week, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.
Perfect. So let's go into the action about how we can deliver a communication in a successful way. Implementing and measuring a calendar is important to measure the results of each content territories and keep adapting them. Showing the athlete off the pitch, this is what connects, because it shows the person that it's not the player. boosting digital engagement with interaction. Brands and sponsors, they look for engagement, not for followers, because they look for quality rather than quantity. And what at least is, these are, I think, their priorities. And finally, user-generated content to create community. It helps a lot. User-generated content is the content that comes from fans that they have posted and we can engage with. Here we will see now an example of how we have developed an entertaining campaign during COVID to boost engagement, and we will see some examples. Okay, so as you see, and here is important, here is the brand, New Balance, to provide value to the sponsor. And as you see, she has broken something, and we did a quiz. She broke a little Buddha, family pig, a giraffe, or a soccer trophy. And then we posted the result, the final.
Oh boy.
And we called the story once upon a giraffe, and it got a lot of interaction and responses. As we asked them, the people, what did they break in their lives with playing football in house, and they said some things like, kick the ball into my empty fireplace so hard a squirrel fell down the chimney. One time I dented someone's car with a baseball while they were driving it. So yeah, it was successful to generate this interaction, and many people got it right about what she broke. So let's go into the final part, sponsorship, how we can make an impact and to connect to brands. I will try to go a little bit fast, because so we can have time for answers and questions later on. Strategy, proposals, and why women's football. In sponsorship is about them. It's about what you can provide to the sponsor, so it becomes an asset and a strategic asset in their company. So as we said, brands look for engagement and to be cool, to be a friend, like Netflix nowadays. That is, it could be among the friends that talk about their day-to-day. Also becoming a valuable and internal strategic asset, how you can become a project, an internal project of the company as it was launched from within. And this is very important to match their goals, their philosophy, and their objectives. Let them save time and effort. Big companies and big brands, they don't have time because they have many projects running. So if we can save them time and effort, that would be great for them. And finally, creativity, perseverance, and empathy. It's crucial to be different, to be very persevering, because sponsorship takes time and many doors to knock on, and empathy to know which are the challenges. So what should include a sponsorship proposal? Who we are, and talking about the main highlights, what we do, what's the best from the activities that we offer, the impact in terms of ROI, not only economic, but social and in media, the audience, a detailed description of our fans. And here is, for me, is the most important one, the opportunity. Why the company should care about our project. Why is a good opportunity for them, and why should they buy it? And finally, the proposal, how we are going to make it. Here's an example, the last example. This is an epic one of the most sponsorship activations that I have ever seen.
Spain, 1982, was the last World Cup in which Peru participated. 35 years later, Peru played its last qualifying match, 10,588 kilometers away from its territory, against New Zealand at Wellington, a city where only 64 Peruvians live. How do you make the Peruvian team feel at home while being so far away? Hacking the opponent's stadium, we noticed that the New Zealand soccer shirt is also white, and the color red is part of its design. Its team motto is, "Here as one," and its political map looks like a stripe. Yes, a stripe, like the stripe of the Peruvian football jersey. It's now sponsoring gear of the Peruvian national team presents a hacking jersey. soccer jersey reflects all the elements to become the shirt that all New Zealanders want to have. But from a distance, it became the Peruvian jersey. We made it famous with geo-targeted advertising.
That was Sam Malcolmson. He's a famous New Zealand football player.
We made an ex-player from New Zealand wear it to amplify the message. And we gave it away outside the stadium. In the stands of the Westpac Stadium, there were few of us, but it appeared as though there were thousands. Results: a grandstand full of Peruvians and non-Peruvians. But most importantly, the Peruvian football team goes back to the World Cup after 36 years.
So as you see, is a brilliant activation how you can hack an opponent's stadium. Why women's football? Why is an opportunity to sponsor women's football? You can associate to big brands with less investment. For instance, sponsoring FC Barcelona or the women's team is cheaper than the men's team, but you're still associating to FC Barcelona, reaching a specific market niche, associating to closeness and purpose of women's football, being the first and the only in many occasions, empathizing with the equality movement, and also investing in assets with big potential. So some personal lessons that I will go a little bit fast. Top failures in my side, forgetting about soft skills. These are very important to connect, not empathizing enough with projects and clients' needs. This is, I cannot stress how important it is. Saying yes too much. It's important to focus on the important. Let's the most important things be the most important things, and getting distracting from revenue. To books, I have here set I show some of the books that have helped me the most: Marketing Treacherously, Athletes Are Brands Too, Linchpin, and Shoe Dog. Top Secrets, Star Blog, Volunteer. That I think that Andre, he's a great example of that. Soft skills and storytelling, and action. Finally, sign up for a challenge. As we said, design an attractive story, empathize with their needs, and choose remarkable. Thank you very much, guys. I hope that you have drawn important and relevant insights for your projects. And now it's time for asking and answering questions. I will stop sharing presentation.
Thank you very much, Xavi. Really, really great presentation. Particularly enjoyed the last example that you shared with the Peruvian company and the national team. Really great one. Guys, you can post your questions in the Q&A section or on the chat, wherever it works best for you. Until then, I'm gonna ask you, Xavi, do you think that the impact of last year's World Cup, the Women's World Cup, can still be felt in the growth of the women's game?
Yes, well, thank you, Andre, for your feedback. And I think that that's a very good question. We could feel it because after the World Cup, we saw that many companies started to sponsor the women's game, especially the naming rights of leagues, as in France. Automatically, France got a naming rights sponsor for the national competition after the World Cup, and also Germany. And here in Spain, we have seen more companies investing in the women's game, and also Media Pro showing the games every weekend. So I think that from a fan attendance perspective, sponsorship and TV rights, we have seen an increase. But now with the current situation with the lockdown, that games are not happening and clubs, they are struggling to generate revenue. I think that now will be a challenging time, and we will see who really cares and commits to develop the women's game. And actually FIFPro last week, they released an announcement that they were worried about how sponsors or investors could retire their and take their money out from women's football, since this situation is not adding them value. So I think it's time for culture, as we said, tied to make people proud and stakeholders and fans, media, and also sponsors proud about the brand that they are associated with. So it's time for culture and for branding more than ever, I think.
Okay, and I also wanted to ask you, but before I see we have a message from Daniel. Daniel saying, wonderful presentation, thank you. I'm not sure if the questions are not coming through the Q&A or if you're not asking them, but if you did go on post them on the chat as well, because we can't see anything in the Q&A section.
Okay.
Okay, and I also wanted to ask you, because we have here a few people that work for county associations of football in Romania, which are the affiliated members of the Romanian Federation, and others that work for federations of other sports. What do you think would be the first steps they can take to build a successful brand or to build their brand?
Yes, I think that first of all, Andre, it's very important to know to who you are selling your products, what kind of experience you want to offer to what kind of fan. Because, for instance, if we are addressing to the young generations, maybe sometimes it could be more important to focus on the experience on digital rather than the offline experiences, because many of them, they want to consume pieces of content of entertaining during their day-to-day. Maybe there are people, most or many fans that prefer to watch the All or Nothing documentary about Manchester City and Guardiola, rather than to taking a plane and going to Manchester to watch a game live. So it's very important to know who we are addressing to, and then building that experience from knowing what they do in their day-to-day, what they're looking for, which are their challenges and their fears. And also, it's important right now in this situation, as we mentioned, to develop a human and a close brand. If our fans, they are worried about their families, about health, we have to be there for them. And this is an important measure that FC Barcelona made by selling or giving the naming rights of the Camp Nou, of the stadium, to the foundation.
Okay, thank you very much for the answer, Xavi. We have Sharon here. I think he wants to pass on a message. Can you unmute your microphone? And I can do it for you, actually. Hello?
Hello?
Hi, we can hear you.
Yes, hi. Hi. Good afternoon from Mumbai, India.
Good afternoon, Megra. Thank you.
First of all, I would just like to say thank you so much for a brilliant presentation. It was so interesting and so entertaining right from the beginning to the very end. And the videos and the messages, you know, were really good. And I with love football, I could really connect with the presentation, you know, with the Raquel Rodriguez, and then with the Peruvian team. Yes, it was absolutely wonderful. And I know a lot about soccer and, you know, the branding and all, and sports in general, you know, like Michael Jordan and how all these great players, you know, how they live their life on the pitch and off the field as well, you know. So yes, I absolutely get your point, your presentation, and it was just amazing seeing the whole presentation. So thank you so much.
That's great. Thank you, Megra. Thank you for your feedback, and I'm very happy that it helped. And also best of luck on your side, your projects as well, and with India especially. The FIFA Women's World Cup Under-17 is going to take place. We don't know when, but I think that India is such a great country to work and to develop sports. I mean, there's a huge passion, as you may know, Megra, for sports and for cricket and for football. And I invite everyone to read more and to know more about India, because I think that they will be one of the top markets in football in the future.
Yes. I have actually worked for the Under-17 FIFA World Cup, which India hosted in 2017.
Okay.
And Overall, India has a huge following for football, but we know a lot about European football. We know about the international teams when it comes to the World Cup, but we do have our own league. But you know, that league is still not been able to generate that much of interest and attract a lot of people to come down to stadium and watch. You know, so
okay.
We are trying hard to find out to get people interested, but I think it'll still take it'll take a lot of time because these players, I guess, you know, not up to that level where, you know, we like, I mean, I enjoy watching them, but you know, most of the people are still into cricket, and it's a very small percentage actually. If you compare the population of India, it's a very small percentage that actually follows football and all news related to the sport.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. I mean, having that population, a big percentage can be a lot compared to other countries, but I think that that's a beautiful challenge of knowing what is the story that Indian people tell about themselves, about sports and about football. What is the story they tell about themselves, and what is the story they want to tell about themselves? How we can develop cool brands and something worth being proud of, and sort of something worth belonging to. I think that that's the most important part of trying to gather people, because they will not go maybe for the sports area. They will go to tell their friends that they have attended the game and how entertaining and how cool it was. So I think Megra, your point is very interesting, and working on that, how to make them proud to belong to something greater and beyond football is the key.
Thank you very much, Mehra. Very good question. We have another really good one from Andre Alexandru Tane. I'm gonna unmute your mic if you can ask it yourself.
Hello, thank you very much for a great presentation. Unfortunately, my camera doesn't work right now. So my question for you was, is it possible to apply, and how can you do that, to apply the principles of building a brand into building actually ourselves, like to improving ourselves rather than building a brand? Okay.
Thank you, Andre. That's a brilliant question, because in the end we have to start branding ourselves, and especially I'm a big fan of personal branding, also as professionals, and on that side they are completely applicable. Actually, I apply them to myself, and this is why it's very important to dedicate yourself to a specific niche, to try to transmit and to position yourself as an expert. In my case, I try to position myself as an expert in women's football, and to try to offer a specific value, building a brand, and a profitable brand that can connect with brands, with sponsors. So focusing on a market niche, also providing value and knowing which problem you are solving. And in the end, guys, when you try to connect with sports stakeholders, what has been useful for me is to share your achievements. For instance, is it better for me to say, when I approach to, for instance, if I want to work with Leo Messi, it would be better to say to Messi, I have positioned or ranked Raquel Rodriguez among top 10 New Balance athletes, together with athletes as Sadio Mane, rather than telling him I have worked with her sponsorship side, communications, or branding. No, they want to know what we have achieved and what we can offer in terms of milestones and achievements. So thank you, Andrea. That's a brilliant question, and I invite you everyone to work on your personal brand. And actually on the presentation, I always say that volunteering and starting a blog is very useful to start building your brand.
Okay, thank you, Andre. Thank you, Xavi. And we have time just for one more question from Raul, who also has a problem with his mic. He asked, what do you think is the best approach to sponsors if we should approach the sponsor or if we should wait for them to notice notice us and the brand based on the results.
Yes, thank you again for the question. I think that when approaching sponsors, it's very important to work first in the homework that we have in-house, that we have shared as building your brand positioning, what you can offer, because otherwise, when you identify your sponsors' challenges and needs, they want to see how you can do it, what you have done, which is your impact, which is your story, what they want. Because in the end, you also have to think about the story that the sponsor will tell about your brand to themselves. For instance, FC or Stanley Tools is the first sponsor of the women's football team of Barcelona. The story they tell themselves is that they are helping to shape women's football future by sponsoring the women's football team at FC Barcelona. So first, guys, it's important to build your branding, and then connecting with empathy with your sponsors. And the exercise is like, try to go inside, try to feel you're part of the marketing department of your sponsor and how you would develop a project with your brand to help them to achieve their goals.
Okay, and Raul also had a second question. It was, what about athletes? If you want to work with someone, how do you get in contact with them?
I would, well, in my case, the athletes I have worked with, for instance, Raquel or Lina, former player of FC Barcelona, has been by recommendation. But if you want to start from scratch, I would start first by defining the value proposition that you can add, and then trying to approach people that are managing athletes' brands. Many times are agents, but they are focused on the sports sides, signing and breaking contracts. So I would reach either the agents or the players. There are players that they don't have agents, and approaching them by saying, okay, should we try to collaborate, and I can help you to achieve this, this, and this, and we can do a period of a trial, and then you can decide. But I would approach them not with who you are, but about what they can win or what they can benefit from by working with you.
Thank you very much, Xavi. Amazing presentation. Thank you as well, Raul, for the questions. That's it for this session. Thank you very much, everyone who's been a part of it. And the next one starts at 1 p.m. Romania's time. So in a little bit more than 45 minutes. Thank you again, Xavi, and it was a pleasure for us to host you.
Thank you, Andre, and thank you everyone for attending. It's been a pleasure.